Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 527 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, for Sunday, April 28th, 2019. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Samsung's postponing its launch, PC gamers are switching platforms, and Sinemia is leaving the country. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, on any of our live stream platforms like livestream.com, Mixer, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube Live, or Facebook Live, on any of the podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, the myriad of others like Spotify, TuneIn, or Stitcher, or of course on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is most Sunday nights at about 9 p.m. Eastern Time by going to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio during the show and give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. Avram and I always like to hear what the viewers have to say about the topics as we talk about them. So definitely check that out. But if you can't join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe will show you all of our shows, including F5 Live and the Piltch Point, plus shows like First Looks, which is the reason why we were off last week, and of course many more, and all of the different ways that you can subscribe. And with that, I think that's the spiel. Avram, how have you been over this last 2 weeks? I missed talking to you last week. Your mic is muted.
Yeah, me too. Good. Real good. Lots of stuff happening at the office. Lots of new product coming, and preparing for less than a month. I'm leaving for Taiwan for my usual trip to Computex, and there's a lot of stuff happening in advance of that, and we expect that to be a really big event this year.
Yeah, especially with some of the topics that we'll talk about during the Piltch Point in a little bit. There's likely to be lots of interesting stuff at Computex this year, since we've got processors and video cards and all kinds of interesting stuff coming.
Yeah, although some of it, the thunder may have been stolen by
indeed
this last week's announcements. But there's other stuff that we have a strong suspicion will be announced. Like, obviously there's lots of rumors about AMD, AMD rolling out its next generation Ryzen chips at Computex.
Yeah. It's
possible. Especially since AMD CEO Lisa Su is giving the keynote for Computex. So, I think there's good possibility of some really big AMD news coming out of Computex, but the Intel news kind of happened. Probably the biggest Intel news happened for the next few months happened this week. But we'll talk about that during the Piltch Point.
Yeah, for sure. But obviously, every time something like that happens, we see products trickle out after that for a while, so maybe we'll see some interesting stuff on that at Computex too. For the viewers who don't know, when does that happen this year?
So Computex starts. The press day will be Monday the 27th, which I think is Memorial Day. I'm not asking you to feel the audience to feel too sorry for us, but all of us at Tom's Hardware will be spending our Memorial Day weekend working. Anyway, so the press day is Monday the 27th, so we'll start probably our reporting then. The first official day of the show is the 28th.
So we can expect the last week of May to be.
Yes, last week of May will be the big week. Last year, Computex was the first week of June, so they've moved it back a week. Although in prior years it was the end of May, so I think they're just going back to normal.
Whenever they could get the facility.
Yeah, you would think that they would be able to get the facility when they want to, because Computex is a big deal in Taiwan.
Yeah.
The president of Taiwan attends it and stuff.
Wow.
So, they're very proud of the show. So I would think that they would be able to keep getting the venue. Just me.
Yeah. You never quite know with that stuff. Obviously, on my side, we were off last week because most of the PLUGHITZ team was actually in Houston for the first World Championship Houston edition, because this past week has been the first World Championship Detroit edition. And for those of us here in Florida, the Houston Championship was a really big deal. One of our very local teams, for First Tech Challenge here at our studio, they're in the same county, actually won the First Tech Challenge championship in Houston, which was really cool. The Boom Bots, and then the Chairman's Award, which is kind of like the highest honor a team can get, was given to Exploding Bacon, which is out of Orlando. So this was a really big year for Florida, and it was exciting to be there, especially considering how many of the teams that we've had on our First Looks series over the years have had big years. In Detroit, one of the Dutch teams, the Rembrandts, which we had at the Orlando Regional a couple years, won the championship there. So it was pretty exciting, and for me, it was my first time at championship in 20 years. My last time there was 1999. So it was cool to be back there, and we are working out the idea of being doing First Looks from there next year. So that's pretty exciting. So in addition to First Looks, actually, when we got back from Houston, we were greeted to some new review products, including the one that's here in front of me. If you've been a long-time viewer, you will recognize that for the first time in almost 10 years, I have a new microphone sitting in front of me. I have my old one sitting next to me, but I have a new microphone sitting in front of me. If you've watched our CES coverage in the past, you know we've interviewed Neat Microphones a number of times, and I have officially changed my microphone from my old one to this one as part of a product review. So far, I'm in love with it. It's way better and way more sensitive to my voice than the old one ever was. So I'm loving this thing, but obviously we'll be publishing reviews over the next couple of weeks on this and the other 4 that are all sitting here in the studio with me. Because there's this and a smaller version of it. There's the B-Caster, which is actually designed for the thing that we do, but the thing that we do is bigger than what most people do. It's actually the equivalent of what Avram is talking into right now. The microphone that's in front of him, the B-Caster, is Neat's version of that, and there's a smaller version of that as well. So I can't wait to do these reviews. But I definitely want input on what people think about my sound quality over the next couple of weeks while I use this one and the other one, because obviously that'll be a big part of the product review. But I guess with that, let's get into some news, shall we?
Great.
This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a up to $400 off of the Surface Book 2, which is obviously a favorite of mine with one sitting here in front of me. You're looking for a new laptop where you can save up to $350. You're looking for the all-new Xbox One S All Digital Edition with no optical drive. You can pre-order that right now. And a whole lot more, not just Microsoft stuff. If you're looking for the Samsung Galaxy S10 or the Note 9 or VR and mixed reality headsets, and a whole lot more, you can find them all by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. And the one thing we never talk about during that promo is that students get 10% off at the Microsoft Store with a valid ID or a .edu email address. So definitely worth looking into if you're a student. Speaking of Samsung stuff, this week has not been great for them, or I guess the last 2 weeks has not been great for them PR-wise. I guess it was probably about 10 days ago or so, while we were gone, that a bunch of reviewers received their Galaxy Fold review units, and within 24 hours, the first report came in that the screens had cracked. And it did not get better from there. In fact, a number of different sites posted photos of the cracked screens on social media, ranging everywhere from cracks like at the bottom at the seam to like full LCD panel loss. And that, I mean, that's not great for them. It was one of the things that that everybody in the industry was worried about, right, Avram? Was that what was going to be the durability of this, and that is not a great starting point for them. So
I haven't, we don't really review a lot of phones at Tom's Hardware, but my colleagues at Tom's Guide do, and they sit right behind me. So they got one. They did not break it. But I think it's very interesting to note how the news cycle. So first of all, it almost goes without saying, but it does, that Samsung really screwed up. They should make a better product. They shouldn't have unleashed it to journalists before it was in decent condition, and their plan was to unleash it on the public. So
2 days ago, right? Friday.
Yes, it would have been out. So they probably have like 1 million of these things, I don't know, however many they produced, sitting in a warehouse somewhere that now either they have to do something to refurbish if they're trying to fix it, or they have to, I don't know what, toss into a pile with the exploding battery Galaxy Note 7s. But so that almost goes without saying that the core problem here is that it's a poor quality product. And no matter how they rolled it out, if the product is a poor quality, it's going to catch up with you.
Yeah. But and they almost certainly, it's almost certainly poor quality because they tried to rush it to market because they were scared of Huawei and a couple of other companies that had products that were theoretically going to come to market before them, which is a dumb reason to panic.
Right. So that's one problem, and obviously, the whatever they did with journalists, it wasn't going to solve the problem. But I find it really interesting the strategy that they took with their review program. Forgive me to getting into the inside baseball of how people review products, but I think this might be interesting to our viewers who do not work in tech journalism. So normally with a big product like that, a product launch like that, they will have reviewers that they send the product to, and they will do it like a few days or a week in advance of the release, but then they will set a review embargo of, okay, we're giving you all this phone on Thursday, but you can't publish anything about it, even the fact that you have it, until either the day of the release or maybe it's the day before. But so what would happen if they had? But in this case, they chose not to put an embargo on it. And they also didn't really give people very good, I didn't see what exactly they got, but they didn't give them very detailed reviewers guides, whatever, to tell them how to use the product. So Here's something to keep in mind. The fact that they chose not to embargo it, if it had been under embargo, I don't know if the news about the breakage gets out before launch.
Right.
Because what will happen is, so normally if we get a product, and if a reputable journalism publication, reputable tech news outlet gets a product to review, and the product is defective, their first instinct, particularly when it's under embargo, is, oh man, I'm going to contact the company and say, hey, this broke. Can you send me another one, or can you explain why this broke? And almost always the companies will have an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say something like, oh, I'm sorry, yours must be a pre-production unit. And I've heard that a million times, even if the product's been out for like 3 months.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yours must be a pre-production model. Let me send you another one. Then they studiously look for one that maybe isn't broken and send it to you. And then you're left with a dilemma. Well, how much of a big deal do I make in my reporting about the fact that I received a defective one?
Right.
Maybe it was just me. Maybe it was really a pre-production unit. When I'm doing reviews, my job isn't to represent just what I experienced, as a journalist with early access to something, but what the reader would experience if they received it. So when you get a product from someone and it's defective, you don't know whether, you're the only one that got a lemon, whether it's because it's an early version or something,
yep,
or whether the entire product line is junk.
Right.
So if you get something that breaks, if you get something that's fundamentally poor build quality, then you can usually say, well, okay, this is just not well made.
Right.
But what happened in this case was, I believe The Verge was the first. They actually went and they tweeted out a picture of their broken screen.
Uh-huh.
So, I have to say, normally for us, the first thing we would have probably done is call Samsung and say, hey, our screen broke, and then inevitably the company usually says, oh, that's just, you must be just yours. I'll send you another one.
Uh-huh.
Now, and you may end up in and I've ended up in some bad situations because of this, because then they don't send you another one for 2 weeks, and then you're late,
uh-huh,
or you don't report on it because you think it's just yours, and then you find out later actually it was everybody's.
uh-huh.
So what happened here was
usually sitting in line for a press conference at CES or Computex or
right. You don't normally, so there's not normally a lot of gossip going on. I mean, there could be, but between journalists reviewing something,
uh-huh,
that their stuff broke. But what happened here, and if there is, it usually doesn't you get out into the public so much. But in this case, I think somebody like The Verge decided to post their picture, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of other outlets saw it who had received it, and like, hey, mine broke too.
right.
So now there are two different issues at play. One is that a couple of the units just genuinely had a defect.
Mhm.
Like you opened the folding part, and I think one of the two halves of the screen just started blinking or something.
Mhm.
Another one, I think the hinge or something broke. That's just straight defect.
Yeah.
But
That's everything that's mass produced has a failure rate, and that falls into that category.
But what you don't know is how often that happens.
Right.
Right. So if that only happened to those two, that only happened to those reviewers, anyway.
Right.
But then two of them had another issue that you could argue is user error, but the user error stems from poor design.
Right.
So there was a plastic, what do you call it? Clear plastic sticker, basically.
Yeah, a film over the top.
Film over the top of the screen. Now, on most phones that you get and take out of the box, there is something like that,
Uh-huh.
and it's to protect the phone while it's in the box.
Right.
So
Because Samsung can't control what's going to happen when they hand it to FedEx.
right. So you peel that off.
Yes.
And so if you're reviewing something, or if, let's say, it got out of the public and they bought it,
Uh-huh.
and they see a sticker on top of it, their inclination is going to be to peel it off to get the real screen underneath.
Mm-hmm.
The sticker apparently was necessary to hold the thing together.
Yes, crucial to the stability of the hardware.
This is a $1,800 phone that's held together by a clear plastic sticker.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
So you could argue that this was user error, although apparently nobody told the journalist not to peel it off.
Right. I was going to say, if you're going to argue that it's user error, then we're going down the same road that Steve Jobs did with the iPhone 4.
You're holding it wrong.
Yeah.
You're holding it wrong, right? But the other thing is, let's say a friend of mine who used to do PR for Samsung, my friend Ethan Raziel, wrote an article about this topic for PR Week, I think. And he said, they should have, like how Samsung's messaging failed, they should have made sure they gave the reviewers better training and a reviewer's guide. That's all true. But let's say there was but what if you're giving journalists something and they've got to read this detailed instruction to know not to peel it?
Uh-huh.
What happens when you're shipping it out to the masses?
Right, exactly. Because here's the thing. I just bought new phones Friday. And I can tell you without a doubt that the people in the store took the sticker off of one of the devices while we were there. The salesperson did. Uh-oh.
Now, to be fair to Samsung, I've looked at this phone. We had, like I said, one in the office, although Samsung has taken them all back. But I saw it, and it's not such a blatant sticker. Like, it doesn't look exactly like the stickers that you see when you take a new phone out of the box. It's a little bit more tightly stuck. So you really got to work at it to peel it. So that might be an indication that, like, okay, maybe you're not supposed to peel this because it's not so easily removed. You got to like stick your fingernail under it probably and really like dig it.
But once you try and get that corner up, it's never the same again.
Right. If you get the corner up, you're done. But the point is, it's not quite as. I'm sure that the people at Samsung didn't think that it was not obvious to people that they shouldn't be trying to remove that.
Right.
But that's just generally poor build quality.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if there's a flashing red neon sign that says don't remove the sticker. Like,
you're still going to get 1.5% of the population that's going to do it.
There's still going to be people who are going to do it because it's intuitive that you would.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing is,
because we've taught them since 2007 that smartphones have a film on them. You take the film off.
And then an $1,800 phone should not be held together by a sticker.
Yes.
Like, that's the bottom line. It should not be held together by a sticker. So, it's unfortunate that Samsung got all this negative publicity about this phone. But better that the journalists uncover it than that they had to ship these all out. Then they had to deal with the customer service calls. The journalists actually did them the negative publicity did them a favor.
Yes, because the publicity of 100 review units out in the wild having problems is way better than a Galaxy Note 7 again. Which is where this was headed if they had launched this device on Friday.
Yeah. So now this says some really bad things about Samsung's quality control. It says some really bad things about their design and about their rush to market and about their communication strategy. But I can't totally agree with, hey, if they just gave people better instructions, this wouldn't have been a problem.
Nope.
The problem is they designed it in an unintuitive way.
Right. Yeah. Because you and I made fun of Steve Jobs when he got up there and said it was BlackBerry's fault that your reception sucked because they taught you to hold your phone wrong, because that was dumb. And it's just as dumb to say that it's Apple's fault that you pull the thing off your screen. You know what I mean? Like, it's what everybody knows to do, because we've been, for those of us who have had smartphones since before the iPhone, I've been taking plastic off a smartphone screen since like 2003. It's just what you do.
when you think about it, the human body also has this intuitive design flaw because you get scabs and it's really tempting to pick them off.
And you know what? I think that is possibly the most appropriate comparison that you could have possibly made. Because that is, with the Note 7 being so unbelievably recent, they definitely gave reviewers the ability to pick a scab.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, obviously, there's content out in the wild, a lot of content out in the wild on photos of these screens and articles about it. What you won't find is a teardown report because Samsung asked iFixit to take theirs down because apparently the device that they had in their possession they probably shouldn't have had anyway, which is an interesting situation. But like Avram said, Samsung has taken all the devices that were out in the wild back. They have delayed their release of the device until at least June. And who knows what that actually means. So the device is in limbo right now is what it means. We're in limbo and there's no telling what the next step will be. But the thing that I can promise you is we will let you know what that next step is when it happens.
Yep.
This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by Newegg. Whether you're building a new computer or upgrading an existing one, Newegg has all of the parts and pieces to make that easy for you. Whether you're looking for a motherboard and processor, hard drive, power supply, or full-built systems, you can find them all with Newegg. And there are daily deals. Right now, there's an Asus ROG laptop on sale. There's hard drives and RAM and all kinds of stuff. And like I said, they change every day, so you'll definitely want to check out those deals. And the best way to do that is by going to piltchpoint.live/Newegg. So, speaking of computer components, Avram, this has been quite a week for news about computer components.
Yes, well, and when you think about it, news about systems too. So, Intel has announced its 9th generation H series processors for laptops. That means that gaming laptops, these are first of all the first 9th generation. I put that in quotes because that's their marketing term. Not that the 9th is that much different than the 8th, unfortunately. 9th generation laptop chips, although they have had 9th generation desktop chips since the fall. And these are the 45-watt H series chips, which are used in gaming laptops and mobile workstation type of laptops like a Dell XPS 15 or maybe a MacBook, but I don't know if MacBook Pro uses it. But well, they don't use 9th gen, obviously. But so anyway, 45-watt processors, and that means anytime Intel announces new processors, all the laptop vendors immediately come out with new laptops. So I'm sure Intel gave them these processors a while ago because they have them out and ready to go the same day that Intel announces it. It's not news to Asus or Lenovo or Razer or MSI, who all made announcements. So, and the other PC vendors that we haven't heard announcements from on 9th gen powered laptops, I'm sure we're going to hear very soon. Acer also, I think we heard. So but let's step back for a second. What is the 9th gen H series processors and what's new? So the new thing is that the highest end processor, the Core i9, is going to have 8 cores and 16 threads. That is That is the Core i9-9980HK. That is the highest core and thread count for a mobile consumer processor that has ever come out. And it also has a boost clock speed, meaning it can get up to 5 gigahertz before you attempt to overclock it, provided, of course, that the laptop has decent cooling. So that's the high end of the line. And then you've got, a couple Core i7 models, a couple Core i5s, and those drop down to 6 cores and 12, or 4 cores and 8 for the Core i5 threads for the Core i5s. All of these are 14 nanometer Coffee Lake refresh code chips, which means they have the same architecture as last year's models. The same Intel architecture as last year's models, the Coffee Lake refresh architecture. And by the way, the Coffee Lake refresh architecture is only a slight modification from the, I think, Skylake architecture that came out a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So this is all still 14 nanometer processors. Everyone's waiting for the 10 nanometer processors. You're going to keep waiting for quite a while, especially to come into gaming. So in the meantime, Intel has made these modest improvements by increasing the clock speed, increasing the number of cores. Those are really the main improvements that they've made. They're not there's not a lot of new capabilities there. When Intel announced these, their big thing is, look how much faster these are than a processor that's 3 years old. Now, that's accurate. That's a decent comparison if you're talking about consumers who buy a new laptop every 3 or 4 years at the best, at most, right? People aren't buying a new one every year. But it's not. But if you really want to know whether the technology is advanced, that's not a good comparison, because it's not telling you whether, if you have a choice between a model with last year's processor and a model with this year's, whether it really makes a difference. And obviously we haven't had a chance to benchmark these. They just were announced. But it sounds like the really big deal here is not that they've come out with new chips so much as that the new chips are an excuse for vendors to come out with new laptops. And the new laptops will have other new features that you really will notice and care about for sure. For example, Asus came out with a bunch of new Zephyrus laptops. It's thin and light models. And these laptops now have screens that can refresh at 240 hertz. Like, that's a lot, right? So you're talking about, if you have 240 frames per second, your screen can actually keep up with that. So these systems really, you're getting that kind of a refresh to go along with the processor. Also of interest, there's a new mobile graphics. There's a new graphics card around. NVIDIA just released its 16. I believe it just released the 1650 graphics card, which is its low-end mainstream. So really, there's more stuff. There's more stuff happening. Another thing that I think is really huge is Asus just announced the Zephyrus GGA 502. Say that 5 times fast. That is their AMD powered, the first AMD powered gaming notebook in a long time, if ever. It uses AMD's new high wattage Ryzen processor, and but NVIDIA graphics, and it's a really, really affordable deal. You can get it for $10.99 with a 512 gigabyte SSD, and and 8 gigs of RAM, or $11.99 with 16 gigs of RAM. So, and so that's very powerful. So, there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out. I definitely encourage people to check out the coverage on our site of some of the announcements, but obviously we'll be getting in these laptops over the course of the next month or two as they actually hit store shelves, and be able to really evaluate them.
Very nice. And so, okay, so the new laptops have just been announced, right? Like, or have some
Yes.
of them? Nothing's hit the market just yet.
No, some of the new Zephyruses are supposed to ship, I think May 1st or 2nd.
Okay.
So very soon. We The AMD model is supposed to ship by, we looked at it and we said, oh, if this is out today, we're not going to wait for ASUS to send it to us. We're going to go to the store and buy it because we really, really want to test it. And no, it wasn't out yet. All the shipping says, I think, May 3rd. So you can't buy these. You could pre-order, but you can't actually have in your house. Probably not anyway. Any of these until probably another week or two. But we're very, it's very close.
Gotcha. I think we should pluralize it Zephyri.
Yeah. Zephyruses.
We decided to pluralize Surface with Surfi a number of years ago. So I say we go with the same scheme here.
They're like 5 Zephyri right now. I mean, ASUS also released some new Strix and gaming laptops, but the Zephyri are the ones to keep your eyes on.
Oh, that's just fun to hear. I like hear Zephyri. Oh, all right. And so obviously you guys have articles on all of this stuff, right?
Yes, on tomshardware.com. Also a review of the new GTX 1650 graphics card.
Ooh. Nice. I have not seen that yet. I look forward to seeing that. And obviously, as always, thank you, Avram, because you keep your finger on on the pulse that the rest of us just can't do. So, thank you. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the accessories you need to up your game on both PC and console are available from Razer. Whether you're looking for a new keyboard and mouse, a controller, a webcam with chroma key built in, or you're looking for a full system like the Razer Blade 15, available up to $500 off right now, and a whole bunch of other deals. And you can find out all of the things that Razer offers by going to f5live.tv/Razer. So, speaking of PC and console, an interesting report came out this week that I think has a lot of people confused, or at least surprised. And the report says that over the next 3 years, by 2022, as many as 20 million PC gamers will switch from gaming on a PC to gaming on a console or smart television, which is definitely an interesting assertion. And if you look at just the numerical evidence, you can understand how they might get there. The idea that, Microsoft and Google are working real hard on these high-powered game streaming services that would allow you to play honest to God modern AAA titles through just your television. Okay, I can see that. The idea that PC hardware has like we literally just talked about in the Piltch point, even with brand new processors coming out, they're a moderate improvement over the past. We're not seeing the leaps and bounds that we saw a decade ago, right? So you put that together and you go, okay, looking just numerically, it would make sense that people would at least stop buying new exciting gaming PCs, and maybe you'd see some of those people switch to other platforms. But it's hard to believe if you know actual PC gamers.
Yeah, so this is interesting to me because it makes a lot of sense what they're saying. On the other hand, I have a vested interest in people continuing to get to be into PCs. So,
Indeed.
So I hope they're wrong. I also hope they're wrong because, having a PC, having the power in your own hands, so to speak, is really compelling. And we see so many things moving to the cloud and moving to a walled garden and catered experience, and your PC is like, you control, especially when you can build your own PC. But even if not, the PC platform gives you so much flexibility over your experience.
Yeah, from a technology standpoint, it's like the ultimate expression of you.
But so that's why I like the PC experience, and I like it to continue. Besides the fact that makes up the majority of the readership of our website.
Fair enough.
But the report that the wind is blowing in favor of some of these other things. So like, game streaming is getting a lot better, and there's a lot of effort behind it. If game streaming is good, why would you spend good money on thousands of dollars even on a gaming PC when you could just get use a set-top box or the crappiest PC around, as long as you have a decent internet connection. So there's a logic to that. There's also logic to the fact that consoles are much more economical than PCs are. Like, you have a $500 computer and you can't play anything better than Candy Crush on it.
Right. But Microsoft launches an all-digital edition of the Xbox One S for $250, and it has zero limitations on the games it can play.
It can play every game for that platform, and those games are pretty good. So, like, pretty good quality graphics and everything like that. So it's, to be honest, it does kind of beg the question of why should I spend thousands to play games when I could spend a couple hundred on the hardware?
And if you ask that question in any PC gamer group, you will get lots of answers and be called names. But and it's that calling names that makes it really difficult to believe that many people will switch from PC to other platforms.
Now, it might be the case that those 20 million more people are people who aren't PC gamers now, right? But the market goes where there's growth. So you could say that hey, the people who are diehard PC people are going to stick with PC for a while. Although once the market starts to move and you can no longer get the games that you want for PC, then it becomes much less compelling.
Though the battle for PC gamer attention is stronger today than it's been in the last 25 years.
Yes, right now it is. But what if 3 years from now there's really compelling cloud services gaming?
Yeah.
It
It seems like they would make that available to the PC as well, though, right?
Yes, but it doesn't really. At that point, you don't need the PC to be very good. So
True.
So
you'd certainly be less likely to upgrade the PC you already have.
yes, you would be less likely to upgrade the kind of I mean, you might enjoy being able to control things like your desktop environment and things like that, but ultimately you're not going to get the, if performance no longer matters for the majority of people because they're they're playing games in the cloud,
right?
What does that do to the entire ecosystem of people selling video cards and people selling $3,000 Zephyr I laptops and things like that? That's a lot of, that's a market that would be severely hurt. And it is kind of a shame that some of the companies that actually benefit the most from PCs are trying to push people into the cloud. Like NVIDIA has its own game streaming service. But NVIDIA actually stands to be hurt the most if game streaming beats out individual sales of video cards. So, I don't know.
Maybe, because there's still going to have to be video cards somewhere. They're just going to be in a server farm somewhere.
That is exactly.
So if they can actually, interesting, NVIDIA may not be the ones to lose out, but their partners that actually manufacture cards based on their specs may, because NVIDIA may start building like very specific server farm related hardware, and then all the companies that build cards based on that spec get pushed out of the market.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and I should say that one time I actually was at a Q&A with Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA, and I asked him this very question about, aren't you worried that game streaming is going to hurt hurt your video card business? And he said, no, he's not worried because he's still going to have to supply the hardware for the servers. But while that is true, I have to ask how many servers there are in the world compared to individual PC users, right? Like
it would probably be a smaller number of actual NVIDIA processor or NVIDIA spec'd hardware pieces out in the wild, but my guess is that like Microsoft would do more frequent refreshes on like their Azure farms for xCloud or whatever they're calling it than you or I would do on our video cards.
Only if they really see major functionality change, probably, right? Like some of the things that there's been a lot of controversy about, like should people buy RTX video cards? Is the ray tracing good enough to justify the price? Like, companies that do cloud gaming that run server farms are going to be very conservative about that kind of thing. They're probably not going to jump on the bandwagon for new technology so quickly.
That's true. That's for sure. It'll definitely be interesting to see how that plays out for companies like NVIDIA. For all of these reasons, obviously, it's an economics conversation, right? It's supply and demand, and theory is all fine and good, but it doesn't matter until you put it into practice.
Now, if you're a fan of AMD and you wish that company well, as I know we have many AMD really hardcore AMD fans who read Tom's Hardware, they're in good shape because they provide the video cards for I don't know if it's for both PS4 and Xbox, but
it is.
I think so. They're sitting pretty because they're and I think there was a rumor that the PS5 will be powered by them. So
I think Sony may have actually confirmed that.
right. So in other words, console sales are good news for AMD.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily good news for the PC ecosystem, but good news for AMD.
For sure. Yeah, they have long benefited from from consoles.
So, but cloud gaming, it really makes you dependent on, it really makes you dependent on a third party, and not really controlling your destiny. But the counter argument to that is most games have some component that uses the internet now, that can't really run without it.
Right.
And a lot of people don't want to worry about how good their hardware is. They just want to play the game.
Hence the rise of the console gaming in the first place.
Right. So I think that this report, I don't think this report is wrong. I think the people who are really into PC gaming now are not likely to switch unless the ecosystem leaves them behind and the games they want to play no longer come out for PC. But they're probably right that the growth in new gamers there will definitely be a lot of new gamers that come onto these more affordable platforms.
Yeah.
The other thing to keep in mind about these other platforms, cloud and console, is they're more family friendly.
Yeah.
If you have kids and you want to play with your kids, you want to play in the living room. Mm-hmm. And yes, you can hook your PC up to a TV in your living room, but it's just not as catered an experience that's good for kids. You want your kid to play. Maybe you don't want them messing with your $3,000 computer.
Right.
So
and it's pretty hard to do anything to, say, an Xbox or a PlayStation. You know what I mean? It's hard to do something that'll harm that.
Right. Like I let my son go. My son, since he was like 4 or 5, has been able to turn on the PlayStation and use it completely. Mm-hmm. He could do that before he could read at all. So, and there was no real concern about what's going to happen to him when he's using this,
right? Or
what's going to happen to the PlayStation,
right? So yeah, there's definitely lots of reasons. It's the reason why the console. I mean, yes, there are a lot of people who play PC games, but the console is definitely where game companies are focused. Even today, I mean, we've just seen Microsoft start putting a focus back on PC gaming in the last 18 months after ignoring it almost entirely for 15 years. So the console's definitely, I agree, the console and smart TVs and things like that, as cloud gaming becomes useful, I think that's where all the growth will be. But the assertion that PC gamers are going to switch to consoles, numerically I can understand it, but it's a misunderstanding of that of that group of people.
Yes, and God bless them, because not only are they a great community, but they're really standing up for people having the power in their hands in their homes. So I hope there continues to be a vibrant PC gaming community for a long time to come. But I don't think that console is going anywhere but up.
Yeah, agreed. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies, or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities like, I think it's just called Floats. I'm not entirely sure, so let's go with Space Mutiny instead. The way it usually works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever the movie happens to exist, and laugh. They also do a couple of live events every year. The last one was actually this past week. The next one is Star Raiders, which will be in theaters nationwide June 6th and 11th, so coming up pretty soon. And to find out all the theaters that you can see it in, and to find the movies that they have riffed, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. I don't even know what is happening in this preview. I've been watching it the entire promo, and I still don't know what's happening. A little girl seems to be pointing at a drawing of teeth. Anyway, whatever.
Is it Star Raiders or Space Raiders?
I don't know. I think it said Space Raiders.
Because that's the old one. Star Raiders is a movie from like 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Space Mutiny. The live one, Star Raiders. Star Raiders. Sorry. I didn't realize that Space Mutiny and Star Raiders, they got mixed up in my head. Anyway, so jumping the gun on our next promo a little bit. Obviously, we say it every week. We all know your basic benefit for Amazon Prime, and that's 2-day shipping. But that's about to change. We know that Amazon has been offering 1-day shipping on a number of products in their catalog, and for some people, you can even get as quick as 2-hour shipping, which is crazy. And Amazon intends to expand that to the majority of their catalog that is currently covered by Prime. The 1 day, not the 2-hour. They plan to extend the 1-day shipping to the majority of their Prime catalog over the next year or so, and they have actually begun that process already. This quarter alone, they spent around $800 million in preparation of their infrastructure for this change. And as a result of the infrastructure upgrades that they have put into place, they have actually removed one of the biggest annoyances of the 1-day shipping option, the $35 minimum purchase.
Yep. Really?
Yes. The $35 minimum purchase is now gone on almost all of the 1-day shipping options, and they plan over the next 12 or so months to expand that catalog to include most of the Prime products, which, I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Yes, it is. I remember a few months ago, I forget what it was, that I wanted to have it in order to work on it with it on like the weekend or something. And so I wanted to get the 1-day shipping, and it was like, oh, I got to throw in some other things to get to the $35.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, it really already feels like for a lot of things, you're just better off. And it's a little scary because what does that mean for competition? You're just better off getting it from Amazon than having to go out to the store. And if you only have to wait a day, like, you know, what's to wait, right? Like,
Amazon has definitely helped to calm the American desire for instant gratification.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly been things where it's like, oh man, I gotta get this, like, oh, I want this to be able to work on a project on the weekend. I better order it by Wednesday or something, or if I want to have it. So,
or you've got to go find that one that is 1-day shipping and get up to the $35 and.
Right. So it certainly would tempt me to buy more stuff from Amazon, and stuff where it's like, oh, maybe if I don't get to work with this weekend, maybe I won't even bother with it. Like, oh, yeah, maybe my son and I can play a new video game this weekend. Let me order it. So like, that's probably a bad example because most of that you could do digitally anyway. But you know, maybe we need this new robot kit, due this weekend. Oh, okay. Now we can order it. So,
Right.
yeah, it definitely definitely makes it more and more likely that people will buy things from Amazon.
Yes, indeed.
You know,
Now, here's the thing. Not everybody's happy about this. The Retail Wholesale and Department Store Union, who has always been against basically Amazon in general, but in particular, anytime Amazon tries to upgrade their customer experience, this particular union is always the most vocal. They're saying that with one-day shipping, the order load will be too much for warehouse workers, which it's going to ship a day earlier, but it doesn't change the order number that a particular warehouse person is handling. Right? Like, you're just going to process the orders a day earlier in my head.
I don't really know how it works. I mean, I don't know if it means that like they're processing them faster or that they're just making sure that whoever is providing the shipping is, I mean, because Amazon doesn't do its own, right? I mean, although I'm a little confused now about who's actually delivering the Amazon stuff.
It all depends. A lot of times the one-day shipping is being done through their, I can't remember what it's called, their version of Uber Eats. I can't think. They've got a brand name for it that I can't think of what it's called. But they've got their own like internal version of like Uber Eats, where Amazon says, "Hey, we've got things," and somebody accepts the order and then goes and delivers them.
I've found a lot of the time things that I've had delivered from Amazon lately, it doesn't seem to be coming from like UPS or the post office or FedEx. It seems to be just like some random person, and I'm not really sure how it happens. So I don't know, but that may be true, I guess, if the warehouse is in your town, but like Amazon, how much of Amazon's inventory is within driving distance of my house.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting and that's the thing that they're talking about, right? That's what the $800 million in this last quarter alone is all about, is trying to up that infrastructure so that they can be prepared for this. Now, what that means, I don't know. I listened to the earnings call, and they did not get into extreme detail on exactly what all that means or exactly what they're getting themselves into here. They were pretty vague, except on the details of money and like a timetable that they want it to be in place by about this time next year. But what that means, I have no idea.
Well, it's all good for consumers, I guess.
Indeed.
But obviously there will be people who will be concerned about the impact on the environment because there's an option on Amazon to get all of your deliveries on one day of the week. Which kind of defeats this whole one day thing, right? Just anything out from Amazon delivered on Tuesday. Although it's not really clear if they did that, whether all that stuff is still just coming into an area near you, or whether it's not actually going to leave the various warehouses. I don't know, but so I'm sure there will be people who are concerned about the carbon impact, and then as far as like competing with retail stores, I think I mean, it's obviously more compelling, but there's still a lot of things that Amazon is not a good place to order from, right?
Yes.
It's good, really good for some things and not good for others. Like, I find it's not a very good place to get clothing. It's not a very good place to get food. Even like packaged food tends to be way more expensive and worse selection on Amazon than in the grocery store for what I've looked for.
Yeah.
So
I have a single food item that I order on Amazon. It's only because I can't get it anywhere else. But outside of that, yeah, I'm totally with you. There are certainly whole product categories that are mostly skippable on Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, maybe someday they'll get all that right because they're probably leaving money on the table by not doing it very well. But right now, there's definitely a lot of room for people to still be buying things from the local store.
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely don't think that this is going to undermine local retail any more than Amazon has already, because these product categories aren't getting better on price or convenience. So anyway, it's definitely interesting. We'll be keeping a closer eye on it than most, because of what's about to happen here in a second. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. Here we go. As you know, your basic benefit is 2-day shipping, soon to be 1-day shipping on a majority of the catalog. But did you know there are other benefits as well? First, of course, is Amazon Music, Amazon Prime Music, which gives you several million tracks that you can stream for free as part of your subscription. There's Avram's favorite Amazon Prime Video, which gives you movies, TV, and documentaries, both original and licensed content available, again, as part of your subscription. Then there's my favorite benefit, which is Twitch Prime, which gives you a number of things, including one free subscription to a Twitch channel of your choosing. You can use that to subscribe to PLUGHITZ Live or any other streamer that you like. You also get free games and in-game loot every month. There's a number of cool games out there right now, but if you're a World of Tanks fan, there's in-game loot for that and a bunch of others. And then the current limited time benefit, which is if you're a Switch owner, you can get Nintendo Switch Online for free for a year just by having a Twitch Prime subscription. And there's a whole bunch of other benefits as well. And we've made these things as easy for you as we can with a handy landing page with all of the benefits and a 30-day free trial if you're not already a subscriber by going to f5live.tv/prime.
By the way, I saw like the most amazing movie on Prime just 2 days ago. I really recommend, if anyone hasn't seen it, that they watch Annihilation, which is on Prime.
Did you post about that on Facebook?
I did.
Okay. I knew somebody did, and I actually added it to my...
It was me.
Okay. Excellent. I was going to say, what just happened that somebody else has mentioned this in such a short...
It was me, but I didn't say it to the audience, so now I'm saying it to the audience. That movie is like creepy and fascinating at the same time, and like it left the theater so fast nobody knew it was there. But an all-star cast. I definitely recommend people watch Annihilation, especially if you have Prime Video.
Excellent. It's in my queue to watch. So.
And when you watch it, you have to tell me what you think happened at the end.
Oh, well, I can't wait to find out what this is all about.
So that's the thing. It's that kind of movie where you'll be at the end, discussing at the end whether something is or isn't the case.
Excellent. I can't wait. That might be what I do while tonight's episode is rendering and uploading.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously we all remember MoviePass and the weird disaster that has been that ride over the last year or so. I guess it's been a little longer than that. The end of last year, another company decided to throw their hat into the ring. They're a European company that started in 2014 with a very similar business model to what MoviePass was trying to do here in the United States, Sinemia, and they came to the United States in September of last year with an altered version of MoviePass's business model. The alteration being that it was $30 a month instead of $10 a month for movie tickets. They announced this week that they're leaving the United States because they simply cannot find a way forward to profitability, which, of course not, for all the same reasons that MoviePass didn't work, except for the price. With MoviePass, for both companies, neither one of them was getting a price any different than retail. And so if you've been to the movies anytime recently, you know that MoviePass is $10 a month. You buy one ticket and you have put them in the hole. So there was no way for them to succeed. And then with Sinemia, at least with $30 a month, it would take maybe to the third ticket, unless you're in Avram's neck of the woods. It would take until the third ticket before they were in the hole. But it's only the third ticket. That's crazy. If you go see 3 movies, you've already put their subscription in the hole. There was absolutely no way to succeed with that.
Yeah. I mean, the only way this is going to work is if the theater chain runs it.
Yeah, exactly. And interestingly enough, they actually said that in what is kind of their concession speech. They said, thanks to the cost advantage and cross-sell opportunities, movie theaters will be prominent in the movie ticket subscription economy, which is exactly what Avram's saying, is that the theater groups are the only ones who can succeed here, because they're the only ones who get a different price on the movie tickets. Because both MoviePass and Sinemia were paying retail, whereas for, say, Cobb or AMC or somebody like that, you know, their costs are different on the ticket. They can take that. It's the Amazon approach, right? Can they take the hit on the people who are going to use it a lot to get the benefit, to get the revenue from the people who aren't, which is the whole, you know, Prime subscription concept.
Yeah, I guess one thing I wonder about is, and I don't really know the economics of this, what percentage of the ticket sales has to go to the movie to the movie studio versus the movie theater?
It's a complicated question, because it depends on the studio, it depends on the film. And I think in some cases you buy the reel, and in some cases you rent the reel and pay a royalty. It's a very complex industry. Yeah.
So I guess we'll have to see if movie theater chains are able to take advantage.
Yeah, for sure. We've heard rumors that companies like AMC are working on something like this, which wouldn't be surprising because they've got a pretty good rewards program right now. So, you know, turning the rewards program into something like this might work out. And if anybody outside of the theaters could pull it off, it might be Fandango, because they've already gotten in to the movie theaters where tickets are purchased for less than retail. So, you know, there are possibilities here. But this isn't an industry where just like a company can go, you know what we're going to do? That's not how the movie theater industry works, because it is what I would call chaos. And that is our show. For those of you who joined us live and put up with the weirdness that was our technical difficulties tonight, thank you. If you didn't join us live and would like to in the future, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern by going to f5live.tv/join us is the best way to do that. You can see all the different ways that you can join us live and chat with us in the studio, which, Avram, we're going to pull out something from the past here in just a second and answer some questions from the chat room as part of our closing. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay as well. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe, and there you can see all of our shows, some of which are live, some of which are not, and all of the different ways that you can subscribe to those as well, including F5 Live and the Piltch Point from this evening, First Looks, our special events feed, and a whole lot more, including PLUGHITZ Live Unboxed, where we opened up this microphone, and it's for compatriots who are here in the studio. Before we go, though, let's respond to the chat room here. So there was a question about virtual reality on Windows 10, and the answer is yes. There's virtual reality on Windows 10. There's a couple of ways to do it: Steam VR, Oculus, and of course Windows Mixed Reality. All of those platforms are all available through Windows 10, and at this point seem to almost be cross-compatible, at least with the Vive, which seems to be able to access Steam, Oculus, Vive port, and Windows Mixed Reality. So Avram has always recommended that hardware, and it seems to be getting better.
Yeah.
So
yeah, a lot of people like Oculus too, I guess, but Windows Mixed Reality is really not good, so I can't recommend that.
But if you've got a Vive, you get all of the store options, so it's probably a pretty good bet. And is Windows 10 a good computer to buy? Well, Windows 10 isn't a computer; it's the operating system that runs on the computer. There are some that are good buys and some that are not, right, Avram?
Yeah, you really gotta. Obviously, the majority of computers sold today have Windows 10 on them.
Yeah.
So the only other choice really is to get a Mac. So, I mean, yes, you could. If you want to be completist, there are a handful of computers sold with Linux on them, but the majority of people are going to buy something with Windows or Mac, and Windows takes up the majority of that ecosystem. So what you really should be doing is figuring out, well, what kind of computer do I want? What's my budget? What's my budget? What do I need to do with it?
And our good friends at laptopmag.com and a very brilliant person who used to work over there put together.
Yeah, so there's a lot of
a laptop finder.
There's a lot of laptop buying guides and a laptop finder at laptopmag.com, where I used to work. Tom's Hardware, we have a buying guide specifically for gaming laptops. And by the way, if you're gaming, then you definitely should not consider a Mac. So yeah, it really all depends on needs.
You don't think that 3% of all the games released is enough of a catalog to consider?
No.
Oh, interesting. Is every game going to be cross-platform? No. And it doesn't matter what question you're asking there. The answer to it is no. Sony is very against cross-platform game play. So if you're on Sony on a PlayStation, you're not going to be playing with people on PC or mobile or Xbox. And there will always be exclusives to consoles or PC. Some stuff is only going to come to PC because building for a PC is way cheaper, and distributing through something like Steam is almost free for a distributor, like an indie company. And then you're always going to have games that are made by the companies, right? Microsoft Studios has big titles that you're never going to see on PlayStation, and vice versa. You're never going to see. Oh,
and don't forget Nintendo.
Yeah, and Nintendo is going to be the same way. You're never going to see Mario on an Xbox. Although weirdly, you see Sonic on an Xbox, which is interesting considering Nintendo's relationship there, but whatever. Anyway, so that's I guess we'll do this once again. That's our show. Thank you for joining us. And I guess we've got normal show for a while, so huzzah. So we will see you guys back next week. On behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next week. Ciao.